sort of, kind of. Mainly just because I'm hungry in a way. Oh, thank you, appreciate it. Thank you, Naruto baseball shirt. That's awesome. Oh my gosh. So we're actually actively going. Like, hi everybody. Good morning. Whoever's there. Good morning. It's 10:05. Have you eaten breakfast yet? Because I was just asking them if we've all eaten breakfast. And poggers in the chat and let me know like what you ate for breakfast. However many people are there. Okay, cool. So normally, if it was just you and me, I wouldn't feel the need to like talk in a microphone. I would just do this, you know. But since we're live streaming, I want to make sure everyone on their end can hear as well, who happens to be there. So this is the Transparency and Dark Side of Content Creation panel. So my name's attached to it in the description, but it's meant to be like, I've only done this panel with my partner in crime on YouTube, Jonathan Young, and he usually leads this panel. He has his own way of doing the panel. So I sat down with my wife and a friend of mine and like 2 nights ago, and we mapped out what I wanted the panel to look like and talk about. So pardon me if there are some bumps and bruises along the way and some kinks in how I do it, because this will literally be the first time I've tried to run through my notes in any capacity. But one of the things I want to talk about, and the reason I kept the panel called Transparency, is I think that this might seem like a really silly question, but because it's not like directly in the panel name, how many of y'all actively watch YouTube? Okay, majority, like 1 or 2 that don't necessarily watch a lot of YouTube. Twitch, anyone watch Twitch a lot? Okay, handful of y'all as well, or just a couple that watch Twitch, but that's me. Okay, well, good, because that's what a lot of this is about YouTubers and Twitch. So a reason I bring that up is that how many of us, and this would be me, I think most of us would agree that we appreciate from our creators that we watch a level of transparency that they are willing to share with us, divulge information about themselves, or rather just, you know, be open about when things happen, just tell us what's going on, because I think the beauty of YouTube and Twitch to a degree is that there's a theory in broadcasting, because in college I took a broad communications course, that broadcasting is one to all. So someone broadcasts it out to everyone and everyone sees it, but they don't get to communicate back. It's a one-to-all communication, line of communication. But with YouTube, you've been given this idea and this platform that makes it seem like it's a one-to-one communication, because they can write back to you, they can respond to you, you know, in another video, sometimes in real time. So we have this idea that we've kind of developed of like, it'd be great if, you know, creators gave us total transparency, because there's an evident relationship, or at least it seems like there's an evident relationship between us and the creator. And I think that's by design. I think a lot of people have, I think a lot of creators made it to be so. So out of my curiosity, just because I want to know the kind of room we have here so I can feel out what creators that normally y'all watch, would anyone be willing to just like put your hand up and tell me what creators that you watch, that you like to watch? Yeah, what's the creator you like to watch?
I watch Miniature Nerd.
Mm-hmm.
See now, the coffee hasn't kicked in.
That's all right.
A few political channels.
Mm-hmm.
Names.
Mm-hmm.
Just that stuff. It's just asking for trouble on YouTube.
Gotcha.
Let's see. Lindy Beige. Started watching like the Great War, which is like week by week. This guy is doing as World War I happened.
Uh-huh.
Each week he does a report on that week, and that week. He's up to like 200 something.
That's really cool.
Almost done.
Okay, sick. All right, so that's a good eclectic mix of channels. What about you?
Watch a variety of things, but like lately one of the ones I watch is Markiplier.
Markiplier. Of course, he's been around for like years, man. That's like it's like an OG legend, Markiplier. Anybody else share what channels they watch? Yeah.
One of the folks that I discovered is actually a Zen teacher, a guy named Brad Warner.
Mm-hmm.
He recently started his own YouTube channel. Previously he was just blogging.
Uh-huh.
And he started a channel where he covered many of the same topics, but in a much more face-to-face way, and he's having a lot of success with it.
Cool.
He has a very good way of explaining things that would seem normally terribly abstruse and bringing them
Uh-huh. Cool. Okay. These are interesting channels. Anyone else want to share some channels real quick before I move on? Oh, yeah. What's up?
I like to watch Andrew Long.
Yeah, I know Andrew Long. Yeah, he's really good.
That one's out. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
kind of channels of cartoons telling stories.
Mm-hmm. The animation story channels, those are great. Did you have one? Did you want to share? Yeah. Double Toasted.
It's a movie review site. It used to be Spill.com,
Uh-huh.
and they basically he had sold, I guess, the rights to Spill.com, but he decided he wanted to continue due to popular demand.
Okay.
Then it became DoubleToasted.com.
Okay, so a movie review channel. Nice. Cool. Okay. So we do have a good eclectic mix of things here that we all like to watch and participate in. So a couple of things I wrote down that I'm just going to read off, and we can see where it goes from there. I had this, when I brought up earlier in the panel, I talked about transparency, and we kind of expect a level of transparency from creators, which I established and predicated on the notion that YouTube and Twitch, to a degree, are like a one-to-one communication. So it feels like you're actually having somewhat of a relationship with this person because they can communicate back with you in some capacity and have the capacity to do that. I put forth the notion that maybe 100% transparency maybe shouldn't be a thing, and especially from online creators, even in this one-to-one format. Because, and this ties into, I say that because it ties into this idea that's called social penetration theory. And the concept, I'm just going to read right from the notes here. It's just going to be very much like a teacher who didn't prepare. It's the idea that the more you disclose about yourself, the closer your audience feels to you. Basically, the relationship you have with an individual like this, the relationship primarily moves forward through deeper and more intimate self-exposure. So it's an objective idea that if I were to talk to you, and I take an hour telling you about my life. So if I were to sit down and tell you, like, you know, here's what happened to me when I was a child, here are the, like, and I preface everything by saying, this is going to be really hard. I can't believe I'm saying this. Like, if I preface it, if I give it weight, if I give these statements and that's going on in my life, give them this power behind them, it's going to feel intimate. There's no way it can't feel intimate because I'm giving them that power. So when I spend the next hour or 30 minutes or whatever it is telling you about something that just happened to me or something that happened in my past and I'm clearly emotionally wrought about it, or I'm, you know, maybe let's just flip side, like I'm super excited and I can't wait to tell you, and then I spend, you know, 12 minutes or it is telling you how excited I was, the process, all of that, you know, and clearly seem vulnerable in that regard. The idea of the social penetration theory is that you will feel closer to me strictly because I am allowing you in. I'm allowing you into a space that I have decided and defined as important to me. And just from a natural human existence kind of thing, and the way we communicate with one another, the way we connect, is the idea that we all kind of wear different faces. Like, I have the face I wear when I'm at conventions. You know, there's a degree of vulnerability while I'm here. There's a degree of transparency that I put upon while I'm here. But am I going to sit here and, like, actively, like, say, close the doors? I need to tell you guys. My wife and I had a big fight last night. Like, am I going to tell you that? Like, honestly, like, and why would I? And that's the thing I have to ask is, like, why would I choose to tell you? And that's what I kind of ask myself when I see people engaging in somewhat of a social penetration theory. When I watch creators being 100% transparent, is I'm like, why are you doing that? Because you know that your audience, I don't know if you know the name to call it the social penetration theory, but if you've watched any creator, and this is not trying to dog on them in a way, because there's a lot of reasons as to why someone would choose to divulge seemingly very personal information to a large audience. But you have to understand, and there is a responsibility that I feel, and I think that everyone should feel who's online and creating. You should feel a responsibility to your audience to realize that when you divulge through your body language, through your actual spoken language, through your written word, when you divulge personal information and be vulnerable in that regard, you should anticipate that people will feel close to you because you're allowing them into a space that is universally understood as close to you and personal and reserved for those of importance and emotional security and confidence and confidant. Like, I would not tell y'all about some things that have happened or that might be happening in my life because it's like, I don't know you. And it's also not fair to a degree, and I wrote that down, but I'm going to continue on because I'm remembering it. It's not fair to tell you everything about me. It's like, let's continue with the idea of having a conversation with you. Let's say I take an hour telling you about everything in my life. And let's just pretend it's a video, right? Let's pretend I'm in a video and I've just taken like an hour or 30 minutes telling you about what's going on. And like throughout that entire me talking, I'm sitting right here or whatever video I'm on, and you start having some memories jog. You start having some things you're feeling about your past, and you want to share them because you want to be understood. You want to feel because you want to have that conversation like, okay, there's some stuff that I'm feeling now that I've never got to talk about really, and it's on my mind, and I want to share it, and I want to be heard and understood. And what if you started talking, and I was just like, that's the equivalent of watching a YouTube video or a Twitch stream when someone's divulging very personal information that's very close to them, and then the video ends. You have all these emotions and feelings that you want to personally divulge and tell that have come from you. That's why you see in comment sections people talking about their life and their story in these very personal videos, is because they feel this inclination of wanting to connect. Because when someone releases and gives out very personal information that's potentially damning to a degree, and this vulnerability that they're talking about, that they're giving, you want to be vulnerable too. That's the nature of, I think, communication, is like, I want to connect with you, I want to know you better, and I want you to know me. That's what we want. I want you to know me. And so I don't know if 100% transparency is always a good thing, because of that idea of like, you don't know it, but your audience is being heavily influenced to feel connected to you strictly based on the idea that you are giving out self-defined, through body language or otherwise, self-defined, highly vulnerable personal information. And you have to practice, and I think this is good for all of us in general, but you need to have a defined the levels of intimacy, right? So what I mean when I say that is like, you have an intimate relationship. It's not that you can't have intimacy with everyone, but you have to define it. So if like, there's a level of intimacy that I will reach. And that doesn't mean I can't just, it's not that I might even disclose information, but if I tell you, which is not, this is just an idea, is like, oh, my dad left when I was 6 years old. And I just state it matter of fact in the middle of something. Like, let's say I'm talking about, like, I don't know, but my dad left when he was 6, and my mom and I had to kind of work together to pull it together, and and we figured it out, and it was all good. Is much different than I was like, if I'm going, well, well, when I was 6, my dad left. Do you feel the weight of the difference in how I said that? That's the levels of intimacy. I might say that same sentence that I just said to y'all. I might say it the first way, but to someone that I know really well and they know me really well, I might say it the way I just said it, because it does have that weight. If it's just information and I can be able to make that emotional disconnect, I think that's a good thing. But you should have some things reserved, right? That's what I'm saying. Like, there should be some reserve of intimacy. Not everyone should be allowed into the deepest recesses of your emotion. I'm not saying you can't share information about, things that are going on in your life, and you could be frank about things that happen in your life, and you can share that amount of information. But if you let people into that intimacy, to the deepest recesses of your emotionality, then that's when it starts getting into the fact, like, well, are they giving you back? Have they earned that right? Have they earned the right to hear that? Should you want to share that intimacy and share that vulnerability with someone who cannot give it back to you? Like they cannot actively give it back to you up front. I would, and I'm gonna take a brief second, I was on a roll, but I'm gonna look back in the notes here. Yeah, okay, piggyback off that. The relationship that all of us have, you and I have, you and I have, should not be the same as the relationship you have with a friend you've known for 3 years. It shouldn't be the same. And come on, Caleb. And investing yourself, your personality, your identity into YouTubers and online personalities, investing your identity and your emotionality, your vulnerability into those who cannot give it back to you, I think is doing a disservice to those around you who probably actually actively want to give that to you as well. More than likely, there's at least one person that you have in your life that wants to be vulnerable with you and that wants to hear your vulnerability. And don't spend that. Don't spend that energy and live out a vicarious friendship through someone who can't be a real, true friend to you. Like, doesn't get the time, take the time to get to know you, because however many people are vying for their attention. And I say that to myself too, and I potentially incriminate myself when I say all of this, because I get, and this transitions into my next topic, I get to a degree, it's just going to get uncomfortable in a way, I get to a degree that I'm in the business of vulnerability. And I phrase it like that, and I frame it like that because one thing I wrote in here is that YouTube, to me, and in my opinion, is not a social media platform akin to a Facebook or a Twitter. It's more like a business opportunity. And most people see it as such, because the minute that you make a YouTube channel that isn't just about goofing off or doing, just making passion projects, it becomes a business opportunity. I know so many people who've come up to me and said, I want to start a YouTube channel, I want to be a YouTuber, and a part of me just wants to be like, define what YouTuber is to you. Like, what does that mean to you? Does that mean doing what you love and eventually making money? Because it can be that. But understand that there's a part of your qualifications there that is not necessarily dependent on like being a super artistic, hoity-toity about it. Like, you said you want to make money. What are you willing to do to make money? So I get that part of the reason, for those who know who I am, but for those who don't know who I am, I sing other people's songs for a living. So I'm very much in the business of like derivatives, like right off the bat. Like, I sing other people's songs for a living, for goodness sake. Like, yeah, I sing it originally. I sing it in the way that I want to sing it, but let's be honest, if Frozen didn't write the song Let It Go, I wouldn't have written it. Like, I wasn't about to write the song Let It Go or Disney hits of old to sing. They wrote them, I found them, I performed them. People liked how I performed them, and here we are. Like, I'm a performer / cover artist, and part of the reason I film the way I film my videos is because there is an intimacy with that. Because I'm right there in front of the camera, the way I film it, it's just me and the camera, it's me and a microphone, it's a live take, and what you see is what you get kind of feel. Like, completely no frills. I'm not trying to put anything in front of you to lie. I'm not trying to doll myself up, in most of my videos. I'm just trying to give you the most honest version of me. But that's a choice. Like, that is the level of intimacy I'm willing to give, is just not to lie to you. Like, I don't want to lie, and I don't want you to feel like I'm so far removed from reality, because I understand that YouTube has these big numbers of like these many subscribers, this many views, and I want people to know when they see me and when I talk to them in person about the channels they want to start, that it's like, hey, like 80% of my channel is still me just putting a camera up and a microphone in front of me. Like, I do music videos, but that's not all I do. A lot of me is still just the kid who grabbed a microphone and turned a camera on and sang to a backing track, a karaoke track that I found on, YouTube. So like, that's what I want to send out in my message, is that you can do it too. But one of the things I'm learning is I don't want people to just feel like, yeah, it is simple, you can do this. I'd rather preach the message that, like, you need your passions to be the first and forefront of every sort of, like, artistic endeavor. Is like, am I passionate about this? Do I want to do this because I'm passionate about it? Because I think, as most of us have grown up, you have found within your lifetime something you are passionate about, something that you really love doing. And it's one of those things that if you thought about it, like, what if this went away? What if you could not do this anymore? And you're passionate about it. Like, you're really passionate about it, and it kind of crushes your soul a little bit to know that you couldn't do it anymore. That's the stuff you're passionate about, you know, barring, like, that it's wholesome and healthy and a good thing. That's the stuff I'm talking about. But the minute you start talking about, I want to be a YouTuber, I want to do things on Twitch, I want to, whatever it is, artistic endeavor, and I say, well, what does that mean to you? And they're like, oh, well, I want to do it for a living, I want to make money. Let it be known that the minute it starts making money and you start putting a price tag on your passions are now unclean in a way. Like, I'll explain what I mean when I say that. It's no longer this innocent, pure thing that you do because you love it. It is now sharing the authority in your life of the thing that sustains you from a financial standpoint. My wish for people would be that now that I've been on this side of things, unless you have an incredible will, which you might, and an incredible separation of compartmentalizing your life, your passions will no longer feel like your passions. It's true. Like, I don't mean to be fatalistic about it, but it starts to feel a little less like the thing you're passionate about, because you start getting angry at your passion. Like, you start being upset that your passion's not producing the thing that you want it to produce, because you need it to produce this thing because you have to pay your water bill and you need to eat. And isn't it bizarre when you were growing up and you had your passion for art, or you had your passion for filmmaking, or you had your passion for writing, that it never had any of those connotations ever. You were never concerned about your love of drawing paying the bills. You were never concerned about your love of writing your novel paying, you know, for whatever you need in life, whatever necessity you need. Once it crosses into the realm of money-making, you know, financial stability territory, it fundamentally changes from your passion into your job. It is now your job. You're passionate about it. I'm not saying you weren't passionate about it. I'm not saying you're still not passionate about it. But it is also your job now. And jobs, naturally, if you have one, have a set of anxieties and responsibilities that you must go through. And just because you're living your passion doesn't mean you're not working. So the idea of, oh, if you love what you do, you never work a day, I would say, if you love what you do, try to have it not attached to money, because that's what I would say, because it will feel like work after a while, because everyone's expecting something, and everyone has different responsibilities they want of you. Even when you are your own boss, like me, I am still entirely beholden to y'all. Like, if you want My Hero Academia songs, by golly, I'm going to give you My Hero Academia songs, because there's like a million other of you that really want that material, and I'm going to give it to you because they watch me for that, they like what I do. Cool, that's great. My YouTube channel is based around singing other people's songs, and it's called a channel, for goodness sakes. Think about that. You know, when you turn on the television or you turn on cable and you go to a network, you go to like HGTV, that's a channel. You know what that channel's about? First world problems. That's what it's about. That's what it's about. I've workshopped that joke. I like that joke. But for real though, like, my house is too small. Like, you have a house though, and you're choosing to live in a small house. Like, anyway, but that's a channel. It's HGTV, right? But if you were to turn on HGTV, and it's like a football game, would you not be a little confused as to what's taking place? You're like, did I miss something? Did I cable package change? Think about that. Like, if you come to my channel, where Caleb sings My Hero Academia songs. He sings, you know, the Pokemon opening or whatever it might be. And you come on to me, and I'm like, all right, guys, what up, Hiles Hype Crew? Today we're playing Fortnite. You'd be like, you need to get back to singing, because that's what I'm here for, and that's what I subscribed for. That's what I'm talking, like, that's what I mean when it comes to, like, it's a channel. Like, people come to see this one thing that I do, and while I'm passionate about singing, I love singing all kinds of things. Like, part of my things that I love singing Broadway. I love theater. That's one of my favorite things to sing. I love performing. That's one of the reasons I film the way I film. But I love, there's so many bands and songs and plays, musicals that I will never sing on my channel because they're not viable for my channel, because it's compartmentalized into covers. That's what the channel's for. Just like the people who work for HGTV or SportsCenter compartmentalize it to, today we're talking about this. This is all we're doing. It's not that those people don't have other passions, but they're like, this is my job. I need to make a show about how someone who cares for ferrets and then a dad who teaches one very specific group of kids makes $1 million and wants to buy a house in Paris. I don't know, that's what the HGTV people are making, but that's when he goes to work, that's the specific thing I'm making. He's not trying to tell HGTV executives like, hey, I'm really feeling like making, you know, this into a cooking channel. And they'd be like, get out of the office, like, because we're making houses over here. So, now that I've pulled that out, let me keep moving on to the next thing. I caution people in general. I'm going to pull back to another topic that I had. I caution people about, I brought up earlier the social penetration theory, the idea that the more you disclose about yourself and the more you allow people into intimate parts of yourselves, the closer they will inherently feel to you. It's a very, like, there was I wish I had the actual study here so I could reference it and you could realize it's a real thing, but there was a study done that objectively proved that there is a natural human inclination to connect and want to connect the more people reveal about themselves, intimate details. So with that in mind, you need to understand when you're watching certain YouTubers, when you're watching any YouTuber, and I'm certain you've all seen the videos of people disclosing really intimate information about themselves to an audience. And you need to realize, in most cases, and this is a funny thing to hear, because maybe y'all have heard it before. You know how some creators talk about, or they say, like, I demonetized this video because it's about a certain topic that I don't want to profit off of. I don't want to in any way disparage them from doing that, because I think that's a good thing. I think you should. But you have to also understand, under the idea that divulging sensitive information in vulnerable places about yourself, even though that video might not directly make money, it's allowing people into intimate parts of who you are, even if you're talking about something very personal that happened to you that you don't want to profit off of. Like, you're like, oh, I had this horrible, like, my mom got this terrible disease, and, you know, several years ago, and she passed away, and it's her anniversary, and I want to talk about that. So, you know, here's a link to donate some money. I demonetized the video, or something like that. It's like, all at once, though, you're making your audience, I shouldn't say making, but, like, in a way it feels like your audience is growing closer to you, because you're allowing them into this really, I'm literally saying that sentence 1,000 times. You're allowing people into this special place that most would reserve for a very few. Like, a very few people would get to hear the depth of you in that regard. So when people feel listened to, when people feel like they're worthy of being told all these very important details, that makes them closer to you. So while this video might be about something very sensitive that you're not wanting to monetize, the next video might just be you playing Fortnite. And that one is monetized. And the next video might just be you going out to eat and hanging out with friends. And that one is monetized. And people want to watch you now because you allowed them into this intimate space to hear about these parts of you that normally you wouldn't share with the public, or in such an intimate way. So yeah, you demonetized the one video, and good on you for that. But you have to know that makes people feel close to you, and that makes people want to follow you and know more about you and communicate with you. Like, you cannot not know that that's not how people react that way. That's why you see such an incredible engagement on these intimate videos, and it's like the comments are so high. Why do you think they're so high? Because people want to tell their story. Because we all want to feel connected. We all want to feel close. And sometimes it can be hard in our own lives to find people who, one, want to share their information about who they are, but two, are willing to hear your side and hear what you want to say. It can be difficult to find that. So in a way, we vicariously live out these ideal friendships with people who could never really be friends. Like, can never really be close, great friends with us that we really desire. Someone who you can just call to say, I had a really bad day, and I want to, I just want to talk to you about it. And then you talk, and then they say, you know what, I had this thing going on in my life, and I got to tell you about it. And you're there for them, and everyone feels validated, and you feel worth people's time. So I wrote down notes, I'm bringing it back. YouTube is about profitability. Like, it's about, like, for a lot of these people who get up there, and when you get into the space, it all of a sudden feels like it's about making money. You know, I have this image in my head that I don't think anyone's actually being this way, but part of me is like, there are people who are creating these lifestyle channels, very personable channels, and they're sitting there like, I wonder how I can connect with people today. And it's like, but that's like, it's a little scary of a thought, but like, that's what makes the money, you know, like in a lot of these ways is connecting with your audience. So because that's what they always say, like you go to any workshop, they'll say connect with your audience. They'll say it, you need to connect with your audience. And it's like, what does that even mean? Like, say thanks for watching what I do, or does that mean like, thanks for watching what I do, by the way, my dog recently passed and I'm really feeling it? Like, what does that mean? To what level am I needing to connect here? And what level should I want to connect? Let me see if there's any other notches I wanted to hit off before I get into a Q&A, because I definitely want to hear what y'all have to say. Because I've said a lot that might have spurred some questions or thoughts that you might have. Okay, I'll say one last thing and then I'll end and we'll go into a Q&A here. I said it earlier, but I'll say it again to reiterate. I've said a lot of things about online creators and the idea of, connecting with one another, and that it's a profitability thing, and the social penetration theory, and guarding your levels of intimacy and all that. But I don't say that to be discouraging necessarily to people you watch. I say it as like a cautionary tale and like a sign to just be aware of what people are giving you and why people are telling you these things. But just to also let you know that, and I'll repeat what I said earlier, like, there very well might be someone in your life currently who needs you. And I don't say that, I don't say that I don't try to say that in a melodramatic way or a fatalistic way, but there very well might be someone who needs you. And I don't know where they are. I don't know if they're close to you. I don't know if they're estranged. I don't know. And I might be you might not have it. You might not have that person that you're shut off. You're like, I don't want to deal with it. But like, you very well might have someone in your life who needs you right now and needs you to listen to them. And then you never know what you might get back in return to give to them, from your story, from what's happened to you. And you might have a friendship that blossoms from that and something that's actually real and concrete. And you might have a friend that you have right now that you need to lean into more and tell them more about your life, and they can tell you more about their life, and they can give that back to you. And don't get it from me. Like, I'll put myself out on the chopping block in that way. Like, don't get it from me. I am 100% okay if you watch my stuff and it encourages you, and you feel impassioned, and you're like, I wanna draw now. I feel like I can take on the world. You got me through this time. Like, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. To get through these moments through someone else, that just through their whatever moment that might be. But when you starting to connect more with people who can't connect with you and could never, unless they were to come to you, that's when I think it can start being dangerous. Because the people you connect with online, the people who you see and watch, and they give the information out to you, they cannot know the depth of you without actually taking even a minute to talk with you. They cannot understand the complexity and the beauty of who you are without taking the time to sit with you, talk with you, eat with you, whatever that may be. They just can't. And you can't know the depth of them either. Even whenever they're giving off this intimacy that seems very intimate, that's not necessarily always the case. So we should practice a little prudence and a little caution when we move online. And the last thing I'll say, let me see how much time I have. Oh, I have to take two. This is perfect time for Q&A after this. My cautionary tale on the other side of things is a lot of people will ask me, why'd you get into YouTube? And I will tell them that YouTube is something that just happened. I did what I had a YouTube channel in 2006 with my brother, and we made stupid machinima videos, and we made dumb sketches with our friends. That's what we did. And then in 2011, I made my own channel where I sang Rock Band covers. Like, I turned the game Rock Band on, and I have a microphone, and I just put the camera on. It was the worst mic quality you could ever imagine. It was terrible. But I did it because I loved it, and I wanted to share it with my friends. I wanted to share it with my family, and potentially any other Metallica lovers out there, because I did a lot of Metallica covers back in the day. And sometimes people would find them, and we'd have a conversation about Metallica, or whatever that may be. But then I did the song Let It Go from Frozen, and I had a viral hit on my hand, and it all of a sudden became a potential for a business and to make some money. So I ran with it. I had like a couple agents calling me saying, you should do this. I had MCNs wanting me to, saying, hey, why don't we try this? And all of a sudden I'm hit with business. All of a sudden this thing that I did for, a decade, even before that I was on Google Video, if anyone remembers that relic. I was like, all of a sudden this thing I did for my brother just for fun that I would just watch with my bro in upstairs and bring my friends over. We'd watch this video we made, and we'd just be like, oh, this is so funny. All of a sudden it's like, is this what I'm going to do after college? Is this gonna fund my family? Do I need to start thinking about a 401k? Do I need to figure out what a 401k is? Like, it became that. All of a sudden it just became that overnight. So like, if you have a YouTube channel or a Twitch channel, whatever it is, and you happen upon fame, because that's kind of how it works, and you happen upon a career, even if you're working for it, and you happen upon a career that has that is attached to your passions, I would urge you, like strongly urge you, to do something that reminds you that you love what you do and that you're still passionate about it. I don't know what that is for each of you, but that's something I'm still having to learn how to do. 3 years after doing this and just grinding and trying to find new ways to make this a career and make money and make connections and network, like, I'm learning to love singing again. For real. Like, I'm having to learn how to love it. So I would encourage you, start now reminding yourself why you love it, so if and when something happens that takes your passion to another level, you love it, and you know it, and you never question it, and you will never compromise how passionate you are about your love of your things that give you life, and you'll never compromise that even for money, because that's something that's far too valuable. That's what I've come to learn. All right, so if anyone has any questions, we can definitely talk about some things. I am perfectly fine with doing that. I will repeat the questions, yes. Yes. In fact, you know what? I'll do this. I have room. Yep. What do you got to say?
Okay. Has everyone seen that Black Mirror episode? It's called Nosedive, where it's all about being popular. There's an app.
You're talking about the chick who, like, on their phone, everyone's rated by numbers.
Yes.
Everyone's got, like, a 5-star rating.
Yes.
Like, every social interaction is graded. Yeah.
Yes.
If you haven't watched it, it's like frightening. It's a little, we're like this close, guys. We're like this close to being in that reality. But yeah.
Well, yes. Okay. That's what I think sometimes when I look at when I look at the YouTube and where people are basically putting themselves out there, is that they do need a certain amount of popularity. They're trying to get that, but they're trying to get it for a reason. In their case, in their society, you need popularity to be able to get into your office, to go to work, to rent a particular apartment in a particular neighborhood. If you're below a certain amount of popularity, you can't have that. So, yeah, and you work on it like constantly. You know, so it was very scary. Sometimes, and it gets a little weird, which is the point of Black Mirror. But sometimes it gets a little weird to watch those episodes and then to go back to looking around at what we're doing and yeah, how close we are.
You know, like we're not too terribly far. We're not too terribly far off from a system that like grades you. And I don't know if y'all heard this, and you can look it up to check the veracity of me repeating it to you. But China's actually doing something like that. They're having a social grading system in place, and if you don't have a certain rating, there are certain things outside of getting an Uber that you can't do. You just can't do it, and it's under this guise of safety and you know, having society work better and operate better. No, I don't think it should be that. But at the same time, in a bizarre way, we're already like, yeah, we don't have the 5-star system, but how much of ourselves do we allow to be divulged online, right? Like, employers look at your Facebook page before they hire you. But like, we're also allowing that. And even an employer might not be like, oh, they're not, why is their profile private? They don't even have a Facebook page. I don't trust that. And then they'll move on. It's like, what? Like, you haven't earned that. I don't know you. Like, but at the same time, we willingly allow it. Like, I know my entire Facebook page is public. I'm sitting here thinking, like, why is my Facebook page public? Like, completely, like, everything. And then when we were younger, I was like, I put every interest. I was like, oh my gosh, I love Metallica. I love Avril Lavigne. The movie 300 was pretty cool. Like, you know, I'm like talking about everything. I'm like, oh, I'm here, like, every day. My whole idea. One of the lamest things to do that I still do is checking into restaurants. So I love doing it, mind you. It's lame, yeah, but I love doing it. But what it's done is it's made everyone leave my Facebook page because that's all I'm posting about. Like, that's it. Everyone's turned off my notifications. No one wants to see what I'm up to. It's like, we get it, Caleb. You're the mayor of Waffle House. Congrats. Good job.
You talk about business opportunities. I'm thinking that's a service that someone can do. For $100 will glorify your
I will.
so no one will think you're in any way suspicious.
I will.
You seem like the normalest average Joe ever.
I will turn your Facebook page into a complete mundane operating life that you have no interest in. I like it. Does anyone else have any questions about anything we've talked about? Yeah, I'll just pass the mic to you. Not to put you on the spot, but just so they can hear you.
So this has actually helped me decide because I've been wavering between, you know, anytime you put yourself out there and people say, oh, you should do this, you should go on YouTube, you should do these things, you know, Facebook and stuff. Didn't want to kill my passion for, but the hard part is everybody goes, well, that's the way things go. So then what do you recommend of if you want to share your passion? And a lot of what I want to do eventually is, you know, just share knowledge, be sign language and stuff and make more awareness, then how do you go about that and making sure you go, oh wait, here's where I need to draw the line before I get in too deep?
I think it really is that levels of intimacy. Like, you can, like, if your channel is ASL, you know, and teaching sign language and doing that, and you want to do that, you genuinely want to share that information, like a teacher, in a way. Think about a classroom. You know, if you're teaching in a classroom, let's imagine you're teaching ASL, like in an actual classroom with like 30 students. You wouldn't walk in one day, you would try not to, walk in one day covered in tears and be like, you know, divulge a very personal thing that happened this morning. You would walk up to that door if you were crying, you'd be like, opens door. Hey class, how are we doing today? That's what you would do. That's what a teacher does. They don't bring it with them. They leave it at the door and they do the job that they're supposed to do for these kids or for these people that want to know this thing to learn. You know, but if you make the choice to make your channel and then have the next video after a set of I don't know how many in a row ASL teaching videos say, hey guys, I'm gonna have to take a hiatus on my channel because insert personal information. Like, if you choose to do that, then it becomes different, and then you've crossed a line. You've crossed over something else. It's not that you can't. It's not that you don't have to. You can. You're entirely welcome to do that. That's YouTube. But people's relationship to you will have fundamentally changed. It's no longer a teacher to a student or information you're giving. It is it is crossed into a potential of that one-to-one, but it's just you sharing and them absorbing and then feeling more intimate, whether they want to or not in a way. So I'd say draw the line. It's like, where do you want to draw the line? Like, because it's entirely up to you if you want to share that information. But if you really do just want to teach and share those things, it seems to me the answer would be just keep it about the teaching then. Have the channel be about that. You can still insert your personality. You know, you're still going to be a good teacher and teach the way that you feel is appropriate to teach. But there will be parts of yourself in the room, in the teaching room, so to speak, that you aren't going to let out because it will impede your teaching. It will impede the message that you're trying to send. So, yeah, the line is up to you to draw. Entirely up to you. Any other questions? What do we got? Yes. Let me check my time.
The thing that I found in my, as the YouTuber experience
Uh-huh.
I've had is entirely because I have a fairly small channel. I mean, I haven't even cracked 2K in 4 years.
Yeah.
So I'm, but I've not just from myself, but other people that are. One of the things that can help with as a side effect is if you want to cultivate a certain amount of anonymity. One of the things you don't do is share too much, particularly nothing specific. So even, and I just want to get your opinion on it, but I also find that if you are intending to be anonymous to a large extent, even if it's in the sense of having a code name and not talking too much about your personal life, because you never want to, because sometimes, whether you mean to or not on the internet, no matter what you're doing, I've seen channels that the most benign on earth will piss somebody off, and you don't need that. Well, whether you mean to or not, wanting to cultivate a certain amount of anonymity may help filter the same kind of thing you're talking about as a side effect. So I just wonder what you thought about that.
Yeah, no, that's true. Like you should, like it goes right back to the idea of level of intimacy. Like you need to be aware, even if you say something that you weren't aware was going to create that intimacy, create that kind of a fuss, you need to be paying attention to the audience who watches you to see the response that's elicited from them and then adjust accordingly to what you feel you should. So if you say something that you think is benign, that you think isn't a problem, but the audience responds in a way that like indicates, okay, that maybe got a little too personal or jived some people the wrong way, if you perceive it as such, make the adjustment. That's what I would suggest. Any other question? I have time for we can do a lightning round, or if I have time for one more big question. Yes, Deku. That's an easy way to identify. Oh yeah, you're over there. Tell me the question and I'll just repeat it.
But you start a YouTube channel and it gets popular enough that you think that, okay, I can probably make money off of this. Would you like to, best solution is to just add the money from YouTube with the job that you have now, or would you like to try to use your YouTube experience to get a better?
Okay, so you're saying if you have a job right now that's not making a lot of money, but then you stumble upon a YouTube career that is making you a lot of money, do you keep both jobs or do you just run with YouTube? Well, a lot of factors actually come in. There's a lot of there's a lot that can go for that. Do you like your job that makes you not a lot of money? Do you really love that job? Are you passionate about that? Are you able to separate the money-making aspect of that job you have with how passionate you are about it? Does the YouTube something that you're really passionate about, that you want to turn into a career, and potentially making more money, and so you invest more time into it? It's entirely up to you in that regard. The only cautionary tale I would give on both sides of things, obviously you need some money to live, but living by your means, the phrase that the old adage is that goes, I think is a very important one to follow. Living by your means essentially means if you make minimum wage, through the entire year, live to your means. If you make, 300, 500,000, $1 million, you live by your means. That's... You just adjust accordingly in that regard when it comes to having money and living, with it. But if you love your job, the job that's gonna make you a lot of money, then keep doing it. If it makes you feel alive, if it makes you love living and it fulfills you, don't just quit it because YouTube comes along and makes a lot of money. Because that's doing the very thing I'm talking about, is you're giving up your passions to pursue this incredible wealth. And it's well, what truly has died here? You just lost a job, or did you just crush your passions, which is an integral part of who you are, because you wanted to make some money? so you can be safe, so you can feel comfortable, you know? Because that's ultimately what money is for me and feels like, is just comfortable and safe. That's all it's given me, and I'm far too attached to it. So, yeah, I mean, it's up to you. That's what I would say. Entirely up to you. All right, I have time for one more question, and then I'm going to move on. We have one more question. Yes? Yeah. Making money. How did I balance between pursuing my passion and then making money, like having a career like that, right? Some people love to do the 9 to 5 grind, come home, and then just do their passion the rest of the evening, and then live for the weekend kind of thing, and then, you know, have their vacations and do those things. So when it comes to me, how did I find the balance between pursuing my passions and doing my career that makes the money? Because my passions and my job are one and the same to a degree, like they cross over, I'm having to learn how to much more separate than balance. Like, I'm having to be like, how can I create time to do my passion and love the thing that I've always loved doing, and have me not think about my job and not think about my career. For me, it's more separating than balancing. And I am learning to separate them to where I can even get to the point where I can balance them. It's taken me a long time, and it's still something I'm figuring out. And I think to a degree, when you are balancing it, it's something that ebbs and flows depending on life situations that come up that you can't foresee. A new job, new responsibilities. You know, there's plenty of things that are going to come along that are just going to screw up the schedule, and it's going to be completely new, you know? So it's different for everybody, but for me, I'm just learning to separate first, and then I can get to balancing. Anyways, guys, thank you for coming out to the Transparency, Dark Side of Content Creation panel. I know it's been I've done a lot of talking. And thank you guys who were here the whole time and just sat and listened and asked questions and were attentive. I genuinely appreciate that. That makes me feel validated. And yeah, so now let me tell you about these very, very special things in my life. If we want to talk more things like that, I'll probably be outside in the corner or whatnot. If y'all want like me to sign anything or take pictures to make room for the next panel, I'm going to move out to the hallway. And since there's only a handful of us, you know, even if some of y'all have to go somewhere, just thank you guys for coming out. Tonight at 6 o'clock, I have another, this one's, if you were not here yesterday for the panel I did yesterday, I'm doing it again tonight at 6 p.m. And it's far more off the cuff, silly. We can talk about YouTube specifically, other things, and you can ask about my life or things like that. It's meant to be more just goofy. So 6 p.m., I have a panel, Q&A, and thank you guys for coming out. I'll see you guys next time.